everyone, welcome to Coach on Command. My name is Arron Littleton, and I'm the head coach of the Gymnastics Sports Center Storm, two-time AGA champion, and your host for this hour of excitement and wonder. So I've got my friends with me here, so we're going to let them introduce themselves, and we'll get the show on the road.
I'm Coach Kaegan. I still don't like my microphone.
Coach Tracy, and if I'm in the thumbnail, you have to like the stream, and if I'm not in the thumbnail, you have to subscribe.
The stream.
The video, whatever. Fight me.
I like it. I like Tracy's logic. Whatever he's saying, yes. If he's not, you have to subscribe. All right, here we go. So the other day we, several episodes ago, we talked about finding your own voice as a coach, and that can be something that's exceedingly difficult for newer coaches and for younger coaches to do, to find their coaching persona while they, learn the ropes of coaching. So this episode, in many ways, will be kind of like a sequel to that, because after you have found your coaching voice, the next step really is that you've got to learn to command your own space. And so once you're kind of a little bit more comfortable with the coaching, and you kind of found something that sounds like you've got to make sure that everybody around you kind of knows that you're in charge, because if you're not in charge, that is a problem. So this can be just as difficult as the first step for young coaches and newer coaches, but it's a skill that you must master on your way to becoming a higher level coach. So tonight we are going to talk about commanding your space. And question number one, why do you think being in command of a station is so hard for new coaches, Kaegan?
Because it's a new thing. You don't just pick up skills immediately. Well, you could. But it's very rare to find somebody who's a natural-born leader. It's something that is taught. It is something that is trained. It is just not natural.
I have to agree with Kaegan. I think that, being confident in certain things is a skill that can be sharpened, and some can be more apt to learn it early and eat more easily than others, but it's definitely a skill that anyone can build. So something that's difficult for new coaches, I would say, as Kaegan kind of referenced, you might lack confidence. Lacking confidence in yourself and what you're teaching. Maybe you don't feel like you know it well enough to teach it, and honestly, being that teacher kind of forces you to gain that, whether or not you want it. But also directing kids can be difficult. Kids are difficult to instruct. You cannot be specific enough with them. You can give them instructions that to you seems clear as day, and they will go and do something wildly different and crazy with it that you never expected. But if they explain it to you, it sounds logical. And that's just something you got to work around. So try to be as specific as possible.
It's funny because I talked to one of our gymnasts the other day, and she was supposed to be over on the low beam actually doing skills, and I found her over here on the floor beam, and I'm like, why are you over here? It's like, why are you over here? You should be over there. And she goes, oh, well, I just wanted to make sure it was good and it was a little bit higher than the floor where I was working in. And so before I take it to the floor beam, I was going to go over here. And I'm sure I had this dumbfounded look on my face. I was like, I did not expect your explanation to make that much sense. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that. And I've got a few things that I think as far as why it's hard for new coaches to kind of become an authority figure. And number one is that they're scared to step out of their shell, right? And so it's so much easier to be cozy in your own comfort zone. And it's hard, when you're going to try to push the boundaries of what you're used to doing and expand yourself. Growth is hard. And so it's so much easier just to be at home, And so that's number one, especially if they're young. That's it. It's like they haven't really had to step up before, And so if they're young and and all of that, it's like that's something as a higher level coach when you're teaching somebody how to do this, you've got to realize it's probably going to take a little bit of time. It's going to take a little bit of doing. It's going to take some pushing onto your part in the right direction to get them to go where you want them to go. But also and this is something that I think of, and we actually talked about this earlier, right? And so because you had to get on the junior preps earlier about it's like sometimes you say something and they completely ignore you, and that's what happened. That happened with Kaegan earlier, and I think a lot of the problem with being an authoritative figure is newer coaches equate that with being mean, or the perception of being mean, and it's like, oh, that just feels so. When I say, hey, I speak directly and I say, get in line, do this, whatever. It's like, oh, that's so mean. It makes me feel weird. And
it's just being firm. It's not being mean.
Right. But I think that that's really a hurdle that they have to overcome. Is like they think that any sort of contention, they're scared of it. But to be in charge is to be in a contentious situation, because you've got to be the one who's leading it. And so if somebody's trying to bump up against your authority, it's like that's going to be a contentious situation. Now, it doesn't have to come to blows or anything like that, but it's like you've got to let the people know that, hey, I'm in charge of this station. And so it all just feels so scary and mean, and we don't like it. And but I would say that if you're going to run anything, that you've got to learn to be okay in that skin of being in charge.
You can learn to be confrontational, which is something that you really need for this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that I talked a lot in past episodes about your toolbox, and it's like the ways that you have available to you that you feel comfortable handling situations. And so the more nuance that you can have in the way that you're able to handle situations, it doesn't always have to be like, I said it's my way or the highway. You can get somebody to do what you need them to do in a much less confrontational way, even though it also lets them know that you're in charge. And so that's a little bit of a harder thing to do. That's a downloadable skill in this game. but yeah, you can get there. And so next question is, what do you remember about that process? Obviously, all of us, to get to kind of where we are or get to being a higher level coach, you've got to have gone through some tumultuous times in coaching and learned how to do all of these things. And so we've all been through the things that we're talking about, and that's how we know about it. And so, Kaegan, what do you remember about that process for you?
So whenever it comes to the process of kind of coming into your own as an authority figure, one thing that I found was very like a big stepping stone for me was when I finally learned everyone's name. You come to a new class and you're a coach for your first time. You've got new students, there might be 10 plus of them and there's one of you. They can learn your name easily, and it takes some time, but I think it's very important that you make sure that you learn all of their names, make sure you know it, and when you call it confidently. Because if I say, hey guys, let's do this thing, that's a lot different than saying, Kaegan, we're doing this, Arron, we're doing this. It sounds differently. It sounds like it comes from a greater position of authority, and it commands more respect whenever you call like that. Also, people like it when you know their name. If you don't, they will have less respect for you. So learn their names and make sure to set expectations. People will respect you more if you tell them, look, this is clearly what we're doing today, and this is how it's going to be. This is what I want from you. This is what I expect, right from the start. Another thing, personal bubbles. They rarely exist in this sport. Sometimes we have to be right on each other. That can make some people uncomfortable. You have to let them know, look, I'm here to spot you. This is how I'm helping you. And you want me to be here, because whenever you reach out for something to grab, you need to know my hands are right here and I've got you. You're safe, and you can gain respect by letting them know they can rely on you as that spot, as that pillar for them to perform their trick.
I think that's really good. Yeah, the name thing is interesting, and I for a long time, and I've started getting back to this. It's like I'll go around to the coaches. I'm like, hey, who do you have? What are the girls' names, or whatever? Students' names. What are the boys' names? And it's like they all look at me. What? You want me to remember their name? Well, how do you expect to help them? How do you expect? But I think that using it as a vector, as a mechanism for showing that you're an authority figure, I think is very interesting conversation. I hadn't considered that before. So the thing that I think is that the thing that I remember most, and I mean, I was learning, from Joe Cronin, who was definitely a legend in this sport, who is a regional icon for gymnastics. Everybody knows and loves him. And so I just remember being like, this is crazy. This is, and it's like what I really remember about it is not so much my beginner's career, because I worked beginners for a little while, and I was just like, please don't drop anybody on their face. And then once that kind of subsided a little bit, and I kind of took over, I took up a management role within like 1 year of being here, and so that was kind of crazy. But then once I got to like pre-team, and now it's a completely different ball game. And the reason that it is because beginners, they can only hurt themselves in so many ways. You've got mats all over the place. You're doing fairly low impact stuff. So as long as you keep somebody from peeling off the rings or the bars or whatever, it's not that big a deal. But when you get out here, and it's the air, the air, and then the floor, and those are the only things between that the girls can land safely with. It's really a different ball game, and so at that point I just felt like a fish out of water, because you're out here and you're trying to learn something that's so hard. I mean, I would say, how many people know how to do this, how to go out there and spot a round off back handspring and can do it consistently enough to, warrant them not being fired or arrested, for all of the children that are maimed because they didn't spot them. It's like that is, it really kind of is something that we take for granted now, I think, because we go out there and we're like, yeah, man, I'm just doing this. I'm just going to, if something goes wrong, I'm just going to pluck her out of the air. It's going to be fine. I'll put her on her feet. No problem.
Yoink.
Yeah. Yoink. Yeah. And it's like, it's no problem, but it's so uncomfortable when you first start that process. And, and it's something that's really easy to forget. And so, yeah, but I mean, y'all said it, super uncomfortable, and you're just trying to, like, I don't know what to do with my hands, I don't know what to do with my feet, where does my head go, what is the, it's like you've got so much stuff, but eventually you sort it out. But that whole process from getting to there to here is just a really long, kind of very awkward one. I think awkward is a good word to describe it. And then, lastly tonight for the questions, what are your tips? And so you have successfully made it at least partially to the other side. I don't know what that is, but you have made it. You have made it at least partially to the other side, of that mountain, and so what have you learned? What are the tips out there for anybody who may be starting that process that you can help them out?
It's slow. It's hard. It's not fun. I didn't enjoy it. I'm not enjoying doing it to other people, but if it was not done, then there's no point in even having the class. It would be utter chaos.
So you can think of it like performing a skill. If you go into any skill with low confidence, you're either not going to jump, you're not going to set properly, something's going to go wrong, you're going to try to bail halfway through. None of those things are good. So I would tell someone, consider it like you're doing a skill. You have to go into it with confidence, at least the confidence to send it. Confidence is 90% of landing a skill. It's not 90% of being a coach, but it is a hefty chunk of it. You have to at least extrude that confidence to other people. Let them know, I'm here to do this, and this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to be. If you're struggling with that still, I would say put on an act, okay? Pretend, and I realize this doesn't work in every situation, but maybe pretend, okay, I'm not just Tracy today. Today I am Coach Tracy, whatever you got to do to get yourself in the mindset, to get yourself hyped up to a point where you can do what you need to do and get the kids to perform how you would like them to perform.
I think that's interesting because, I've always said, and I'm sure we'll get into this in a later episode, but being the best at something or being confident in something is a mindset long before it's a reality. And so, yeah, it's like whatever. I'm a huge baseball fan. I think we know this by now. But, it's interesting because they have walk-up music in baseball every time a hitter comes to the plate, and it's like, play the music. And so it's like, if you got to have walk-up music in your head, put some headphones in, whatever, get ready to go, get yourself in the zone. I think that's a really good way to go about it. But yeah, and so I feel like no matter who is in the room with me, I am a top-tier coach in that room. And that's a confidence that you've got to develop, but whether it's true or not, but you've got to have that confidence, or you won't even compete. You won't even get yourself off the ground. And I think that's what you were saying. So number one, I think the first thing in this process is you've got to know that it's going to feel weird. You're going to feel you're going to feel like you have 6 heads out there on the floor, and you've got to really embrace that. You've got to embrace that process, because if not, you're not going to go through it. It's so much easier to not go through a hard thing than it is to go through a hard thing, even if you know that you'll be better off for it on the other side. And so embrace the suck, as they say. And the second thing is perseverance is key. And you've got to stick with it, and you've got to know that some days it's not going to look the way you want it to look. It's not going to be the way you want it to be, but you've got to persevere through that and keep it moving. And surely if you're a young coach, you have not just been thrown out here and it's like, well, you're the head coach now. You have no, and so you should have somebody around you. And even if you're not particularly close with that person, I would just watch what they do. Watch how they keep control of their class and all of that, and if you can pick up a thing or two there to kind of help you on your journey, or ask that person, if you do have a good relationship with them, ask them how they do what they do. And I mean, more knowledge, even if it's bad knowledge, even if you're like, bro, I wouldn't want to do that at all, it's like, that is better than not having any knowledge at all or trying to go it alone. And then the last thing, and I think you said it earlier, Tracy, was set expectations for behavior. And that's a big thing for me. Is I see a lot of young coaches in our gym, and they have these groups of children who they are responsible for on their station, and while they are explaining like the stations, we're going to come over here, and then we're going to go to stall bars, and we're going to go to that bar over there, then we're going to run across the pit, we're going to do this whole thing, whatever. These kids are not paying any attention. We're just doing this, or we're jumping up and down, or we're, whatever. It's like we're not paying any attention. And so you as a coach, if you can get through basically what your rotations are going to be for that day, if you can get them through that mentally and be like, stand here. And that's part of the reason for IB, we have them stand like a gymnast, squeeze, be alone with your own thoughts. That is something that's really hard for kids to do, is to be alone with their own thoughts, because all day they're just like, what's next, where am I going, what's happening, and it's like, no, stand here, be calm, be still, focus on what we're doing. And so all of that is, you can get them to do that, and it seems kind of crazy, but you can get them to do that just by having the expectation that they do it. And if you make that clear to them, that they will be able to rise to your expectation. Most children are people pleasers, and they want to do what makes you happy, as their coach, because they respect you and all that kind of stuff. But you've got to give them clear direction on what that is. And so we have arrived at the randomly strong opinion of the day, which is, of course, everybody's favorite part of the show. And so tonight we are going to rank 5 things at least one more time, and that is I don't know how many more times we're going to do it, but tonight we're going to rank 5 more things, and those 5 things are best/favorite TV shows.
No, you go first.
And so that I didn't ask you anything.
You looked at me like,
calm down. But yeah, so best/favorite 5 TV shows. The criteria are, there are no criteria. Whatever, as long as it has appeared on the television at some point. I guess now Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff counts. So yeah, Tracy, you want to lead us off?
Okay. In no particular order, because it really depends on how I'm feeling that day.
Weak.
I'm just saying. Just saying, sometimes listening to Dr. House call everyone a moron is just what I need. It's the therapy that my brain desires. Because sometimes I think, I can't do that. I want to call this person an idiot, and I can't do that. Okay, I'm going to watch House do it instead. Sometimes it's just what I need. Cobra Kai. Who does not love the Karate Kid? Okay, wild phenomenon. Everyone loves the Karate Kid. Most people that enjoyed that would love Cobra Kai. I'm one of those fanatics, okay? Getting out of the live action stage for just a little bit. Death Note. Not one of my first animes, but an anime that I would recommend to someone that is just trying out an anime. It does have some, that's an anime moment, but it also has some excellent mind games, excellent plots and twists. Doesn't turn out how you think it would. And I love that show. Super great. Next up, My Hero Academy. Do you know what I'm going to do when we get off tonight? I'm going to go home. I'm going to probably rinse off in the shower and then watch another episode because we're so near the end and it's good. I love it. But even the wife enjoys it. She's not an anime person. I tried to explain to her what an anime moment was and prepare her for that. She wasn't ready. Still not ready sometimes, but she's learning and she likes this show with me. Another show that we watched together, I had seen one of them but not the other. And I'm kind of combining them because it's really the same show. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So Breaking Bad is an excellent series that I thought that I would hate. I heard the premise of this and I thought, that's so dumb. I don't want to see that. I'm not interested in learning how to, watching this guy learn how to make,
The first episode gets you hooked, though.
Okay, but I didn't start.
Grabs you.
I didn't start at the first episode.
Oh.
I started episode 5. I didn't know. It's just I happened to walk in and I thought, what is this, So I didn't get a lot of the context, but what I saw, I thought, that's not interesting to me. But then I did see it from the beginning and, gripped me way more than I thought it would. And Better Call Saul, it's really more of the same show. In fact, the ending of that ties into the ending of Breaking Bad. And they are essentially the same show. One's just a prequel that directly follows up into the start of Breaking Bad. Anyways, excellent show.
So, number 5, not a surprise, Doctor Who. Yeah, go for it.
No, I'll restrain. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I enjoy it. It is great. Time travel is great. It is good. Number 4 is Clone Wars.
That's all he ever says is it's great, it's good. Go back, smash cut to all the times he said great and good with no explanation whatsoever. Not an argument.
Sit here and listen to my explanation.
That's the same fun.
Doctor Who is great because it lets you explore history through science fiction while also creating legitimate drama. You actually get attached to the characters. It's good.
That was fantastic.
And again.
I was gonna say, can we do that more often?
Number 4 is Clone Wars, and it's because I think it's the best piece of Star Wars media. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the prequels and I enjoyed the original series. Clone Wars is one of the most lore implicated pieces of Star Wars media, and I really like it. It is good. Number 3 is House. House is great. House is my spirit animal. I feel him in my soul. I agree. Now, because I get 6 now. Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra, because it's the same story. Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm gonna say it.
It's even worse that time.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar: The Last Airbender, I really enjoyed. Again, for the same reason that I enjoy Doctor Who. It makes you genuinely care about the characters. It's one of the shows that actually show genuine growth. I think it was ahead of its time. It was great. I enjoyed it. And one I don't think either of y'all have heard of except for me saying it because it's another British TV show like Doctor Who. It's Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and it is great. It is deeply complex. You don't get the first season until like the last 3 episodes. It's a massive puzzle. It is peak television. And the worst part is they only made 2 seasons. Only 2 seasons of the greatest show ever.
So I'm gonna go bottom up. So number 5 is Sherlock. I enjoy Sherlock. I've always enjoyed Sherlock Holmes, but I think that I enjoy the Benedict Cumberbatch, Martin Freeman
Benedict Cabbage Patch.
Cumberbatch.
Cabbage Patch.
Anyway, I enjoy that. I think it's a really good show. I wish they would do they only do 3 episodes every 5 years. I wish they would stop that. I wish we could get more episodes, but I like having, when Sherlock is doing all the math, like the math goes across the screen and stuff, and it's for a schedule or for a story that's over 100 years old or whatever it is. It's pretty intuitive and it keeps you kind of on the edge of your seat. It's not just a crazy like cookie cutter remake. So I enjoy that. Number 4 is The Blacklist. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that. James Spader is absolutely fantastic. He plays a criminal mastermind who's on the FBI's most wanted list, and he has it, without giving away any crazy spoilers, but he gives away, or he turns himself in to the FBI because he wants to talk with one of the FBI agents. He'll only talk with her. And so they form this relationship where everybody thinks he's still a criminal, but he's working with the FBI to like get his friends or whatever his I guess it would be rivals, his competition out of. And so anyway, it's really good. And they kind of ruined it after they killed wait, I'm giving away spoilers, never mind. Number 3 is and I'm going to talk about this I'm sure more in depth at some point, but one of the greatest game shows that have ever existed in the history of the world, and that is Legends of the Hidden Temple. Do you know that? You don't know that? That's crazy, man. Legend of the Hidden Temple was awesome. They had like all of these temple games you had to do. It's like you had to like paddle yourself across this moat, and you had to do all this, and then and so there were these challenges, and you had to get the piece of life or whatever, and then eventually whoever won the games had to go into the temple, and it was like this gigantic stone head named Olmec, and it was fantastic. We're gonna watch it one of these days, and so they have to go up in the temple, and they would have to find whatever historical item it was. It was like whoever's pearl necklace, whatever, and it would be hidden in one of the rooms in the temple, and you didn't know, and you'd have to like go from room to room and solve like a puzzle to get to the next room. And you only had like a minute and a half to do this, but it's like you're out here. The crazy thing, one of the best things about it was the shrine of the silver monkey, and it was a monkey, like a monkey statue that had 3 pieces on it that everybody put together incorrectly. And so they'd always get stuck on that.
Did you enjoy posing for that?
For the monkey statue?
That was reasonable.
I'll take that one.
All right. Number 2 is The Challenge, which is the other. Have you ever seen The Challenge?
You like game shows, I take it.
The Challenge is like every reality TV show on steroids. It's fantastic. Yeah. Hosted by TJ Lavin. They go and jump off buildings and stuff like that. It's crazy. So watch The Challenge. But number 1 is Psych. Have you seen Psych?
Not the whole thing, but I've seen a couple episodes.
It is, Psych is fantastic. It's about a guy who's just super observant, and he convinces the Santa Barbara Police Department that he's a psychic. And it's comedy. It reminds me a lot of this show, actually. It's just people ripping on each other the whole time, and so Psych is.
And I've got to convince you that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and so Psych is awesome. I also have that if you would like to watch it, Kaegan. So yeah, and they hide a bunch of pineapples in every episode. And so people try to find the pineapple. So there you go. Psych, number 1. Obscure shows, but I'm a nonconformist, and that's how I like it. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Being super succinct, hit the bell. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Argue with Kaegan on TikTok.
Yes, argue with Kaegan on TikTok.
Do it.
He needs something to do in his life.
Country of the United Kingdom. I'll argue with you. All 8 of you.
He won't understand anything you say. All right. So that'll do it for us. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. So please stay tuned for another Coach on Command episode in Swedish that's going to be hosted by Kaegan.
And have a flipping great day. I don't know Swedish.
And don't forget to set. Take care.